Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we are discussing a rare FP Journe Chronometre Optimum Boutique edition. Rare enough by itself, but with the addition of a 5-figure euro optional factory rose gold bracelet. This is now a singular experience, both for its rarity and for its presence. This is also the most sophisticated pure timekeeper that FP Journe knows how to make using mechanical technology. So when launched back in 2012, that was the premise behind the Chronometre Optimum. It was literally the optimized chronometer using every trick FP Journe knows, short of going to quartz like the Elegant. So what we have here is the 42mm case size. You can get it in two sizes, 40 and 42. This is the 42 in diameter. It's 10.1 millimeters thick. If we measure it just lug to lug, it's 52.2 millimeters, but that's just the case. If we add the end links to this bracelet, then it is 57.1 across the wrist, which is quite broad for a Journe, and then 20 millimeters is the spacing between the lugs. Of course, this is also the Boutique Edition. Boutique Edition, which was originally coined back in 2009, is a series from Journe only available at boutiques and espace. And so when you see rose gold with a black dial, you know that is the boutique-only edition. Taking a look in profile, you can see, although a broad watch, it does easily fit underneath the cuff. I feel like this fits on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, but let's consider this to be a minimum, or right on the fence between too small and just enough. If your wrist is any larger than 16 centimeters circumference, you'll find it wears quite nicely. The bracelet's a lovely piece. Journe bracelets look good and they feel good. Taking a quick look, you can see that there is an integrated end link that conforms to the slope of the lugs, but also the curve of the case to better mate the bracelet aesthetically to the case. There's really no definable taper. I can see from the end link all the way down to the clasp, it's pretty much a straight shot, which means it's meaty all the way down. Now, there are some gaps between the links that allow a bit of breathing on the wrist and also make it less likely to pinch skin or pull hair. And then we've got a couple of removable links on both sides of the double deployant clasp, so you have the ability to fine-tune the fit. And then inside the clasp, you can see twin swing arms, rose gold. It is a sequential close. One side closes before the other, just like that. FP Journe, he invented and made it. Taking a look at the case, it's a very distinctively Journe design. Journe uses this case on almost all dress watches and has since the first models in 1999. So we have a domed case back, a domed bezel. We have the overlapping flanges of both, defining the mid-case, which is polished with blended lug profiles, Calatrava style, and then they downturn about 90 degrees from the horizontal of the case band. Journe's crown has always been unsigned, but incredibly recognizable due to the twin dimples, the lack of any brand signage, and then the knurling around the edge. The dial is made of gold, though it's been blackened. And then we have a center dial in silver white featuring seconds, hours, and minutes. Now, I specifically have left the watch discharged to the point that the seconds are in scrolling mode, and that's both for the dial side and for the deadbeat on the reverse. And you'll note that the seconds on the reverse move counterclockwise, but the watch has a 70-hour power reserve via the twin mainspring barrels in parallel. For 45 hours of the 70, the remontoire constant force device operates, and that also functions as the drive for a deadbeat second system. So if you see it in sweep mode, you know you've passed below the 45-hour threshold and you've lost the remontoire constant force device. So the idea is, despite the 70-hour power reserve, that you will wind this watch at the same time every day, and you will always keep it in a zone that maintains the operation of the remontoire, and you'll know because you will see the deadbeat function operating, either on the case back by examining the deadbeat display directly, or from the dial side where you can see there's a little window that shows you the mechanism is jumping rather than scrolling. So you always have clockwise sweep seconds, and provided you stay topped off, you always have counterclockwise deadbeat seconds. There is a power reserve indicator on the dial, and that little red hash tells you the point at approximately when you will lose your constant force system. One thing I like about the 42mm version of this watch in comparison to the 40 is that this is a very asymmetrical, and it can be a very crowded dial without that little bit of extra space to breathe. So I like that in particular. You can see the distinctive Journe tapered hands, as well as the use of a polished and beveled steel inner bezel that surrounds the time-telling functions. You can also see that the cock for the remontoire is internally beveled on each side of the pinion and then mirror finished across its top. It is quite attractive. I will say there are elements of this watch that are finished beyond what you would expect on a Journe timepiece, which tend to be cleanly, mostly mechanically executed. And you can see in particular here the elements that underpin the remontoire mechanism, the cap to the stud holder, and then the bridge for the double direct impulse escapement. All those things are finished to a higher standard than traditional Journe watches. So 30 meters water resistant. You don't want to go swimming with this, but I should mention that Journe makes all parts of the watch: the case, the dial, the bracelet, the movement. When you buy a Journe watch, you're getting a watch that is all Journe, and it's the reinvestment in the faculties of production that help to justify the prices, as you're not buying castles and sports cars for the people behind the company. Well, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, the money goes back into the watch. These are not just purchased parts like you'll find at Laurent Ferrier or Richard Mille, for example. The movement here is made of solid gold. Journe transitioned to solid gold movements about mid-2004, so all 18-karat gold for bridges and plates, along with the blackened gold dial and the full bracelet. This adds up to a massive watch in the hand. You can also see this caliber 1510 is large, so just over 33 millimeters in diameter. It's 33.6. With a Journe watch, the movement number, caliber 1510, means it's 15 French lignes in diameter, and then 2010 is the year work started on the movement. So let's add up all of the factors that make a more precise watch. You have twin barrels in parallel, maximizing torque. You have the remontoire system, so you can see the spring right here, and then there's a secondary pole-based escapement, and every 1 second takes energy from the barrels and transmits it downstream to the escapement. So the barrels, for 45 hours, the first 45 hours of power reserve, they don't directly run the escapement. The remontoire spring provides the energy that ensures constant force each second to the escapement. Now you can see, if you look very carefully under that polished bridge, there are actually 2 wheels that impulse the balance directly via the impulse jewel on the roller table. So there's no Swiss lever in here like Breguet's 1802 natural escapement. It is a double direct impulse where each wheel impulses the balance in one direction, to or fro. This reduces friction, improves power reserve, and optimizes chronometry. So we've got twin barrels in parallel, the constant force system, double direct impulse, then we've got a balance adjusted in 6 positions, not the 5 of a standard Journe watch. You've got a free-sprung architecture, so the watch will not lose its precise regulation. It's also more shock resistant as a result. Then you can see an overcoil hairspring is used because that improves the performance of the watch in every physical position. That's really the point of the overcoil right there. It's a 44 joule movement. It beats away at 3 hertz, and you can see it has a beautiful architecture about it. Decoration is how things are embellished, whereas architecture is the size, shape, and relative positioning of the parts, and you can see that the watch is extraordinary in that regard. If you love this watch, take note, you're unlikely to find another like it. The combination of the 42, the Chronometre Optimum, the Boutique Edition, and the full bracelet makes this a rare bird, even by the standards of my job, and I see everything. So if you like it, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.